Okay, good vach everyone. Gesundta Zumar. We're continuing in Sefer Chofetz Chaim. We're up to the 7th day, which is today. So to stay on schedule, we're getting together today. Today's learning should be a zechus, refuah, and shmira for Leah Abigail Bas Sarah. We're in the footnote in the Chofetz Chaim. V'al yipali b'nei akari. It should not be a surprise to the eyes of the reader. This whole sefer is founded on normative halacha. Normative halacha means the Gemara and the Paiskim. Why am I bringing proofs from the book Shari Tshuva Rabbeinu Yonah Shumaklaus Sefer Mussar, which is a Mussar sefer? Meaning the Chofetz Chaim is very careful to make it known and make it sure that whatever he is writing, whatever he's saying, is what we call normative halacha. Normative halacha. So therefore, are you able to hear me? Normative halacha. And therefore, he's wondering, why am I quoting from the Sefer Shari Tshuva? It's a Mussar sefer. Because the truth is, it is clear to anyone who studies my works, to the works of Rabbeinu Yonah, HaKadoshim is holy words, in many places, he was careful and exact, that he not go out of the letter of the law. Especially when it comes to Lashon Hara, regarding every halacha that he wrote. It has a source from Shas. In other words, Chofetz Chaim is worried that somebody might say, if I'm quoting from Rabbeinu Yonah, then what you're saying is like extra pious practice. No, Rabbeinu Yonah was very careful only to write normative halacha, b'chasher navar, as it will be explained in Yirtzeh Hashem, God willing, b'fnim ha-sefer. Achu kitzer ma'oy, the only thing is, Rabbeinu Yonah was very brief, and he didn't bring all his sources. Nevertheless, in most cases, says the Chofetz Chaim, I didn't rely only on Rabbeinu Yonah, rak b'makom shenishma midvarav ezekula. Only in a scenario where we could glean from his words some kind of leniency. But otherwise, I didn't rely only on Rabbeinu Yonah, or the like. From any other Mussar sefer, I only brought it in for a leniency. But to be strict, practically in most cases, I brought other proofs. Like anyone who studies the sefer will see. And I know, it's very possible, I know there's some people who just have a desire to disparage their friends, and they become so accustomed to this avera that there is nothing that will help to restore and to cause them to do tshuva. I know there's some people who are so steeped in the sin, there's nothing that will improve them. And these kind of people, if they find any leniency whatsoever in this book, they will not be exact regarding what the details are. And they're going to permit many things based on my leniency that I never entered my mind. Basically, people who want to be lenient will jump over any leniency the Chofetz Chaim says. And they won't even have a guilty conscience. They'll think to themselves, yeah, the Chofetz Chaim permitted it. But says the Chofetz Chaim, I said to myself, I will not refrain and withdraw and hold back goodness to those who walk wholesomely because of these kind of people. Like Chazal tell us, like such a scenario, Baba Basra. Amara, we're going to say it. Umehaikra Amar, we're going to say it from this pasuk. Ki Yisharim Darchei Hashem, God's ways are just. Tzadikim Yelchu Bam. the righteous will go in them. And Rishayim yikashlu bam, the wicked will stumble. In other words, you need to do the right thing. The righteous will use it for the right reasons, and the wicked will use it for the wrong reasons, and if they do, so be it. I know for certain that you will find some people, they're going to want to diminish the value of this limud, and they'll hinge it on the words of Chazal, mutav sheyu shoigegen. It's better to be shoigeg v'al mazidin and not be mazid. Meaning, says the Chofetz Chaim, I know some people are going to say this is a bad idea to write a book about Lashon Hara, because until there was a book, when people spoke Lashon Hara, they didn't know better. But now that they speak Lashon Hara, even though there's a book about it, they're doing it intentionally. So Chofetz Chaim, you're making things worse for the Jewish people, because now that there's a book, people are going to violate it, and even though they know it's wrong. Ach be'emes, the truth is, hadini ti mishnei tzadim, I am right in writing this book for two reasons. Number one, bedavar hamafarish ba'Torah ein oimrim mutav. Something that is explicitly prohibited in the Torah, we don't say mutav sheyu shaygigin. We don't say, don't tell people. This way they'll violate it unknowing, and now they're going to violate it intentionally. Kamaisha pasak bar Chaim b'siman tafreish ches sif beis baga, like the Ramah says in Siman tafreish ches. Lashon Hara is something explicit in the Torah, and therefore, even though some people may now be caused to violate intentionally, you still have to tell them. And number two, maybe we shouldn't tell people they're not to steal. That's also difficult to overcome. Even though the truth is more people stumble in Lashon Hara than they do in Gezela, because there the Gemara says everyone is nichshal in Lashon Hara, shekulam nichshalim, and only most people steal. Haloi lo yamru rak ba'avak. First of all, it's not true. Not everyone speaks Lashon Hara. Everyone violates avak. Like the Gemara there asked, Lashon Hara sakadaitach. Everybody speaks Lashon Hara, and at least it will be a toyeles that this way people won't speak actually Lashon Hara, maybe only avak. Via toyeles al kalpanim, there'll be some benefit milimid and yanim ela from learning these topics. Lihinat selmei etzem ha'avain, to be saved from the actual sin. And the truth is, when the Gemara says that everyone speaks avak lashon hara, we could save people from avak lashon hara. If even from avak lashon hara you could be spared, if you place your heart and your thoughts about it. We don't say nobody is careful about lashon hara. Rak b'stama, only some people. Maybe we shouldn't teach people about Hilchos Shabbos. Shehem kaharorim hatzluyim basara. Hilchos Shabbos are like hair's breadth. Hairs that they're like mountains that are hinged on a hair, meaning the subtlety of Hilchos Shabbos is so fine that it's not so easy to be careful. So what, we shouldn't teach people about Hilchos Shabbos because it's so difficult? V'harba dinim yesh b'hem. There are many dinim shekashim oilekayim oisam that are very difficult to fulfill. V'oid, and further, how did Chazal codify in Masechta Eruvin ha'ikarim b'inyanim elo? The Gemara teaches us the main principles about Lashon Hara. Kagoin Masha Amru Sham, that which the Gemara says there. The Gemara even talks about the dust of Lashon Hara. By the way, today's learning actually comes from a footnote in the Chofetz Chaim, so it's more of some subtle points. It's not necessarily reflective of what the regular learning is going to be like. But the Chofetz Chaim says the Gemara itself tries to warn us about the dust of Lashon Hara. Heichidami lishana bisha. What's an example of Lashon Hara, of the dust of Lashon Hara? If you say Nura be planya, there's always a fire in this guy's house. Meaning, it doesn't necessarily mean the guy is a glutton, he's always eating. It could mean he always has guests, he always has family over, he always has friends. V'oid migufa dekra noichiach. The pasuk itself demonstrates we need to always remember this. Doesn't it say holiest b'Torah? It says in Torah, Zachar es asher asa Hashem aleikach leMiriam. Remember that which God did to Miriam. Vehevi haramban bebiurai b'shem hasifri. The Ramban in his commentary brings in the name of the Sefer, shetzarach lizgar tamid bapeh. You need to remember always orally Maaseh Miriam, the narrative, the story of Miriam, that she spoke Lashon Hara against her brother, and she was punished. Kedei she'al yedei zeh, because by remembering the story of Miriam, we'll remember Nisboinin as Godol ha'avaynu mara, will contemplate the seriousness of this bitter sin. But if you're going to say it's better not to think of it to be shoygeg, this way we won't be intentional violators, why in the world would the Torah say, don't forget what Miriam did, don't forget what Miriam did? Maybe it would be better to forget. According to these naysayers, Adarabba, just the opposite. Loi nizkar, we shouldn't remember. V'nuchal shoygegim b'zeh, we could be shoygeg. Elavadai, but it is certain, the Torah yardo sevdas adam, the Torah descends into the depths of man's consciousness, that we have the capacity to be careful from this sin. Because if a Jew did not have the ability never to speak Lashon Hara, God would not try to bust our chops and say, don't speak Lashon Hara. If it was inevitable that we would be speaking Lashon Hara, God would never give us this prohibition. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba betrunya in briyosav. God would never come and bother us. If you think about this always, it would certainly be a great benefit to be saved from this avain. Meaning, we always have to think about the fact that if God told us, don't speak Lashon Hara, we have the capacity, it is within our ability to be careful. Now, even if you're going to say that, look, nobody's going to be perfect, and realistically people are going to still speak Lashon Hara, well, even if that's true, at least if we speak Lashon Hara, we'll feel bad about it. And if we feel bad about it, that itself mitigates the severity of the sin. Oid yimtza toyeles gedoyla milimud inyanim elo. There is another benefit from learning this topic. By learning about it, then we will not consider this prohibition just free reign to say whatever you want. Then, even if you occasionally stumble, you won't be considered a habitual master of Lashon Hara, because a habitual master of Lashon Hara, on such a person, Chazal say, sheshakal keneged gimel avonos hachamurais, that is considered equal to the three great sins. Ve'ena mekablim pnei shchina, and one will not receive the shchina, ve'keyoytze me'anashim hachamurim, or similar severe punishments. Kamay shemuchach midivrei Rabbeinu Yoina b'Shari Tshuva, as it is clear from the words of Rabbeinu Yoina and the Shari Tshuva, or midivrei HaKesef Mishnah, and from the words of the Kesef Mishnah and the Rambam, b'Perek Zayin mehilchos Deos, rak kishar lav da'alma. This way, it will only be in people's eyes like another. It will only be considered like a lav. In other words, a habitual speaker of Lashon Hara, the sum tally of all of his violations will be equal to the three cardinal sins, and the person will not be makabel pnei shchina. But by learning these halachas, it will downgrade the violation to more just violating a regular lav. Gam al yedei zeh, also by learning hilchos Lashon Hara, you know what else you'll gain from it? You'll know that you sinned, and the biggest sin is to wipe your mouth and say, I didn't do anything wrong. Also, by learning these halachas, you'll know that you sinned. Like the pasuk says in Yirmiyah, Hineni nishbad oisach al amrech lo chatasi. I am going to punish you because you said I didn't sin. And at least you'll try to console your friend and assuage his hurt, or at least or at the least not to speak about him again. As opposed to if you just cast the sin to violate it freely, and you don't consider it an avera at all, then you'll be violating the greatest sin of all, and the greatest sin of all is to sin and say, I didn't do anything wrong. The enoi choshvay la'aven klal, and not consider it a sin at all. So many benefits accrue from learning Hilchos Lashon Hara regularly, and among them are that at least the avera will not be hefker, one will not be considered a Baal Lashon Hara, and one won't be considered someone who claims they didn't do anything wrong. Have a great night, everyone. Hopefully we could do this tomorrow at our regular time. Be'ezras Hashem, b'siyata d'shmaya. Good vach, everyone. Agazunta Zomer.